So official.
Oh, now the Facebook piece is not clicking on the go live. Let me try that again. Okay, resume. Okay, well, I have noon, so we're going to get into our discussion today. So for those of you that are joining us, welcome to season 3 of Changing the Game. I'm your host, Jennifer Hensley from Playmaker Coaching and Consulting. And whether you've qualified for Lives Leader Summit, which I know is right around the corner, you have your eyes on Forum, or you're just on the verge of Lives Leader, this webinar series is definitely for you. If you've missed any of the episodes, you can go back and listen to all of our great speakers. This is our final episode of season 3. And like I said, we'll make sure that you have the links to the previous ones if you want to go back and check out Rachel James or Charlene Charisma. Awesome discussions that we had that will definitely elevate your practice. And then as a reminder, next week on Wednesday at noon, we will have open office hours at 12 o'clock Central Time. So encourage your team to stop in, ask their questions. You know, they're going to get some great ideas today, or you might directly yourself. And then you think about, how do I actually execute this? What's the next step? That's your opportunity to come and know that you don't have to do it alone, that they're there to help you take that next step in your business. So if you've been with us in the past, you know that we're going to dive into our topic in 10, and then we'll open it up for questions. So make sure that you capture your questions either in the chat, or you can use the Q&A feature, and we'll make sure to address those when we get to those in a few minutes. So I'm excited today to be joined by 2 awesome all-stars, I will say. Joe Pitterley, who's been with us before, but is back for round 2 because he's doing such cool things that I've been able to see his progress with over the last year. And it's definitely one of the top Lives Leader performers in the company that I'm sure is going to leave you with some good nuggets today. And then Jamie Shibley with the Expressory that Jamie's been working with Joe, and they're going to talk a little bit more about how they're, getting thank yous for the thank yous and the client experience that they're delivering, that this is the time of year that you definitely want to hear this conversation. So thank you both for being here today. Welcome. And I'm going to turn it over to you to tell our audience a little bit more about how you typically introduce yourself when somebody asks you, what do you do? So Joe, do you want to go first?
Sure. And thank you, Jen, for the opportunity to be back again and to reach out to everybody out there, and also to be spending some time with Jamie, who it's been a fun past year relationship. And I'm sure we'll talk about that today. So I introduced myself as an advisor, an educator, a coach. Our goal is to meet people where they're at in their situation, to build a unique and a specific plan for them. And then together we execute that plan, allowing individuals to be more efficient and secure in their future.
Wonderful. And Jamie, tell us a little bit more. I know our audience may not be as familiar with you. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you help clients similar to Joe and other advisors.
Yeah, apparently it's the dog time. So the Expressory is a strategic gifting agency. And so we work with clients like Joe and team to really help them nurture not only their leads, but the existing clients and the overall relationships that really help the business grow.
Wonderful. Well, great to have you both. Where we typically like to start is talking about, 1 or 2 specific things that you've done from a marketing perspective. And we'll start with you, Joe, that you really feel like has impacted your business, has helped you to be at the level that you're at. So tell us about something that you feel like has been impactful from a marketing perspective.
Sure. And I think the marketing to me always ties back to the activity, and anybody who's at Northwestern knows activity cures all ills. But when you think about the marketing side, and especially this is where our relationship with Jen started and then tied to building with Jamie, the referrals are going to be the lifeblood of the business. And having good referrals is going to come from servicing existing clients and growing those current relationships. And ultimately, the more you can foster a relationship with who you're working with, the more opportunity you have to be able to connect and branch out through that existing client. So to me, it still ties back to activity, but the activity of developing a marketing plan, being intentional and getting out there and sending the thank yous, getting out there and wishing people a happy birthday. Or even right before when the pandemic was happening, we were like, how can we actually make people think that we're thinking of them? How can we spend some time, especially when everybody's been so insulated? And so we developed, a way to send out some Christmas gifts, and that was all through the Expressory. And so point is, I think that play starts with building a marketing plan to then help increase the activity of the referrals. And then that's obviously going to help your business.
Wonderful. And I know you've been focused a lot on just not just on more, because you've got a lot of clients, but really making sure it's the right clients and how do you replicate those best clients. So Jamie, you want to add from your perspective to like, what you've seen that's really worked from what you and Joe have put in place around showing appreciation in the last year?
Well, I think you touch on a lot of the important things. I think a lot of people, we put together marketing strategies, based on social and getting this mass following and building this influence, but we often forget about the personal touches, right? Because as we know, we've become so digital that people feel, and then the pandemic even, made this a bigger deal. We feel secluded and isolated. And at the core of every person, we want to know is we want to be seen, right? We want to know people see us, and I'm not just a number to your business. And so by Joe and team really putting, like he said, being intentional about making a point to reach out on a personal level, I mean, that's where you get that referral engine going. That's where you get some of the additional value of people thinking of you for other reasons, for other connections.
That's awesome. And I know that, that probably didn't happen overnight. So it's probably been this continuing effort that you've been doing now for the past year that is really starting to get those thank yous from the thank yous. So tell us a little bit about, if our audience, which are typically kind of still those up and coming advisors and everything, if they wanted to do something similar, what advice do you have for them? So Jamie, tell us a little bit about from your perspective, how do they get started?
Well, we look at 3 categories of relationships in the business. You have your leads, right? And obviously nurturing them to convert them to clients. You have your existing clients, because so often we're so excited about selling, we forget the ones we have. And then you have all of the other relationships that make up your business, your team, your vendors, your partners, peers, all of those things. And each one of those is valuable in different ways, right? But I think for us, what we tell people is look at what you already have going on, right? And pick one and start with something small, simple that you can do consistently. So whether it's the birthday cards, right? Or the just nice to meet you, just make sure it's consistent, because as you mentioned, this is the long game, right? This is not just, oh, I didn't hear from anybody, right? It's bigger than that. And so that's the key is find a place to start with those relationships and keep it consistent.
I love that. That completely aligns with, I know, everything that we talk about. Joe, I'm probably a broken record in our conversations about, we're always talking about how can we start small and be consistent and build on it over time. So from your perspective as an advisor, Joe, what advice do you have on that side of it, of taking that next step forward?
Well, and I think Jamie kind of mentioned it. The consistency is helpful, but also figuring out where you want to start. At the end of the day, you look at your business practice, there's so many things I could be doing to try to improve my practice, but like, how can you, and I think that's where having a good coach helps you also narrow in on where you want to start, but you got to have a plan. So for us in the last year, we've talked about how many events do we want to have? Those have been harder because of COVID, but now things are opening up. How much do you want to budget for those events? And then, the birthday cards really also helped us back before the pandemic, we'd be doing lunches and coffees almost every day of the week to take up. Well, now we're still sending them a Starbucks card with a birthday card, which kind of accomplishes both together. And there's a consistency to that. So I think it's just, to just start is think about what would have the most amount of impact with somebody. And then honestly, probably the easier ones are the birthdays, because you already have a system at Northwestern that helps you queue up and run a report on whose birthday is it this month. So I would probably start somewhere in the birthdays and getting a process there, and then continuing to grow from that. But also, if you're not working with a coach or you haven't yet, a coach will really help you, because you might not have the time to look at that, but that's where the coach comes in to help you develop that plan.
Great. So that might lead into our next question about, the try it at work tip, because we always want to make sure that we have something very concrete that you can start with. That's that first step. Any additional recommendations that either of you have in terms of taking that first step, that we can kind of encourage and challenge our audience to not wait till next year or something. What can they do in the next couple of weeks as that first step?
Go ahead, Jamie.
So, I mean, we're coming up into a big opportunity, right? A lot of business leaders like to take a moment to do some sort of year-end appreciation. And whether that, I mean, we've had people do something for Halloween all the way through New Year's and Valentine's. But I think, you know, to start with, pick some sort of, pick a holiday, pick an occasion, and use that as your theme, as an opportunity to reach out to some segment of your contacts. And even if that's just with a message, and watch the engagement as that comes back in, right? And learn from what people are saying when they come back to you and thank you, because these are the nuggets that'll help you further nurture that relationship.
Right. Joe, anything you wanted to add from your perspective?
For sure. And I think I might have mentioned this in past sessions. And when I coach young advisors, even yesterday on Client Builder, this came up: segmentation. If you aren't already segmenting your business, or even if you have, but it's been a few years since you've done it, the longer you're at Northwestern, the more people you have in your existing system. It's really hard to kind of figure out then, like, if I'm gonna have a marketing plan, who gets what? Well, if you have segmentation, the segmentation allows you to then prioritize the marketing pieces. So for me, that first thing you can do right away is use the tool that Northwestern provides for segmentation, and spend some time on that, because then you yourself and your team will know, okay, if I roll out birthday cards, where do the cards go to? If we're going to send out some of these extra special, you know, what ifs or anniversaries, it's because we know that the segmentation is there. So I would start right away with segmentation.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective, because you know, that helps you manage your budget certainly as well too. You're not trying to do the same thing necessarily for everybody. And I know sometimes we talk about, you know, taking something like a birthday and just delivering it in different ways to your different segments. And you might have some experience with this, Joe, of you know, what your A+ gets for that versus what you might be doing for a C. Maybe there's still some kind of touch there, but you're just delivering it in a different way, a different level of personalization for that different kind of segments.
100%. And it also, segmentation, once it's done correctly, as your team changes around you, which inevitably it does, if the client is properly segmented, the next team member can jump in and already know this person is an A, versus we know as advisors who are our A. But proper segmentation also helps the team, and the team is also who's working with Jamie. So it's not just myself having to kind of delineate and look at who's going to get what every month. The team has a pretty good pulse of that as well because of the segmentation.
Wonderful. Well, what we want to do now is open it up to some Q&A. I'm sure there's a lot of questions that our audience have. So if you have questions, drop that in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll take that while those are coming in. One of the questions that I think some people might have is, tell us a little bit about like your system of how as working with Jamie made this easy for you to have that consistency. Tell me a little bit more about the processes, because that's so often I think where advisors struggle then of like, I want to do this, but then besides segmentation, even if they have that in place, it's like, but how do I do it? You know, how do I actually find the right gifts and figure out who likes wine or whatever it is? So tell us a little bit about that relationship.
Sure. Well, and I think that's one that obviously grows over time. Early on, we spent probably a couple meetings just learning what's available from the Expressory, kind of trying to like hone in on what might be a good fit. But one thing I've really loved is kind of the customization too. We have a client who's in Colorado, and you know, I'm a big fan of supporting local. And so if there's like a coffee shop that's local to them as opposed to just a generic Starbucks card, and working with Jamie's been awesome because they'll look and see, hey, can we get a gift card for a local shop that's in the middle of Timbuktu, Colorado? So I think as that relationship has grown, we've understood that there's more customization that can be had. But initially, you know, we kind of looked through and just understood, you know, what are some consistencies which don't take a lot of time that then can help speed things up. And then also some accountability. You know, and obviously my team will generate a list, but sometimes we're awesome on the response, and other times Jamie and team are like, hey, Joe, we need that list back. So it does actually help having some partners in this where, you know, they're the ones as well that help create a better consistency. It's not just my brain or my teams. It really takes I use the analogy, it takes a village. But the bigger the group we have around us, the easier it is to do this. And then also just situationally, as we've gone, to your point, Jen, we're trying to better utilize CRM for actually engaging client preferences. This person enjoys wine, this person enjoys beer, this person is a golfer, or this person enjoys theater. And so I think as we've also worked with you, we've been able to better track and set up some of those metrics that when it comes to the special occasions and then connecting to Expressory, we're not sitting there kind of twiddling our thumbs what to do. We have a better idea of where our clients are.
Yeah. And I think that hits on a couple of other questions I see about just kind of, you mentioned, working with me, working with Jamie, and kind of how that's all fit together. So you kind of talked a little bit about that, and as well as, why you chose maybe to outsource this versus having your team spend time on it. Jamie, anything else that you want to add from your perspective too?
Yeah, I think we usually hear a couple of things when people work with us. It's, one, I know this is important and I want to do it, but I don't know what to do and I don't know what to say, right? Or I know it, we've tried to do it, we don't have time, I don't want my team touching it, right? And so, those things make sense because, like Joe said, our goal is to help hold you accountable if this is what's important to you, right? And help nurture those relationships on your behalf. So it's good to hear that that's been valuable, because that's what's important to me, is that we show up and we're making this as easy as possible.
Yeah, I got to say, from my experience, I think it's fantastic because I am very much I've learned more and more a tactical communicator and not an emotional communicator. It's not my natural tendency. So you guys do such a great job helping me to say what I feel, but just am not very good at articulating. It's, for so many of us, we'd much rather be that multiple choice. Give me something to react to and I can say, yes, this is the one, versus I have to come up with it myself. So I appreciate all the things that you guys do in that space and are fantastic in that. A couple of additional questions that we had. One was around, with it being around the holidays and some things they're hearing around delays in shipping. And we were talking about some of this ahead of before we started the recording. How much lead time do they have? What should people be thinking about that might be a little different this year than what they've done in the past?
I mean, we are looking at, ever since COVID started, we ship out 2 weeks ahead of time. 2 weeks before you want it to get there is about what we give it. Even though the carriers say 2-day shipping, easily not. And it, as you know, it gets worse around holiday. And all of the carriers are already increasing, adding additional surcharges. And now what we're seeing this year, as many people have probably watched the headlines, how many supplies are stuck out on the ships at sea, right? And we're getting this left and right from a lot of our gift vendors. And so you've heard this for personal purchases as well. Start your holiday shopping now. If you already know your goal is your timing, start looking now. And the sooner you can bring the items in, the better you'll be. Send them when you want them, right? But make sure they come in now.
I think one of the other things I've heard some people talk about too is, maybe this is the opportunity to think about, do you want to do something on a holiday that's not so infiltrated? And that might even be a way to set yourself apart as well. So if you do run into delays, maybe another way that they can approach that might be helpful to them. But don't count on, it sounds like don't count on, even if you've done it in years past, that you're going to be able to get what you want and have it here in the same kind of time as you have before.
Right.
So, and then go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to mention the one thing that we experienced starting to build that relation last year with Jamie and team is, because there is a lot of offerings that they have too, it's not like instantaneously you're going to decide what you want to send out. So definitely give yourself some time to learn what they have. And then all of a sudden, okay, now we need to send them out. So if it's a newer relationship being built, just prepare from a team standpoint that, it's not like instantly you're like, I'm sending this out, especially if you want it to be personalized. And so give yourself a little bit of time too to personalize what's going out.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think that's one of the things too, in terms of when we talk about your marketing processes, we usually have our, quarterly discussions. And part of that is looking at, what's coming up, what should we be planning for, as well as what have we done in the already recently, and did it work? Did we like it? Would we do anything different? So as you're having those intentional strategy conversations, it gives you an opportunity to say, oh yeah, we sent that, apple pie last year. Did we get any feedback? Do we think we want to do that again? Well, it's fresh in your head and it's not a year later of like, just let's do the same thing.
This person's a B now, not a me.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
changes do you need to make, or what could make it even better as you're thinking about what's the experience you want to deliver? And then the last question we have, I think, if there's any more, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll make sure to follow up with you. But for today, I think the last question that we'll take right now is around, and maybe Jamie, or you guys both might have some insights on this actually, is what's the biggest mistakes of like, where do people get hung up, or what are the things that they maybe do wrong in the space of trying to show, appreciation and this unique experience? What either is something that gets in the way or just maybe backfires?
I think one of the things we see a lot, this was interesting because I had in one of the business groups over the last 6 months, people would post questions about how do you set yourself apart, and how do you, show your clients, I forget the wording of the question, but people would answer with, I am an expert at what I do. I give them an extra, review meeting, or I add a little bit more, but it was all about the service or the thing that they do. And I think that, people need to recognize in today's space, people are expecting more in exchange for their loyalty and their business. And so it's not so much just about being good and the best at what you do. Go the extra mile here and really help yourself stand out, because, doing something small, showing gratitude and appreciation helps you stand out a lot further and a lot longer.
Joe, what do you want to add from your perspective?
I think I would just, that was really well said. And also, I hate to say it this way too, in some ways, expectations have diminished because of the customer service experience everywhere. If you can just, we're getting thank yous for replying back to somebody the same day, and they're like, oh, thanks for getting back to me. And I'm like, wow, that's like our normal expectation.
Right.
You look around the world now and it's just, customer service everywhere is changed. So to Jamie's point, the experience is going to set you apart. And the gratitude and to be able to let that person know that they mean something to you, and which they do, our clients do. That's a different type of relationship, and that's a different type of loyalty you'll build that you just can't. Yeah, the expertise doesn't sell, but the relationship sells and builds. And so, and I'll share a quick story too. And Jen has heard the story, but we had a wealth management client who left last year, and you kind of go back and re-engineer, like, what did we do, or what could we have done differently? And you start to look and say, well, that person we probably had fewer touches with. And it was a response from them that they were like, they just didn't think that we were relevant at the time when they heard something from somebody else. And so for me, that's really where I do like the Expressory. I do like our marketing plan is we're trying to purposely be in touch with our clients more throughout the year, let them know we're thinking of them. Even if it's not a review meeting, they're still hearing from us. And I think that just goes a long way towards building a long-term relationship.
Awesome. So if you didn't get your question answered today, or you're watching this on replay, feel free to reach out through the NM Marketing Playmakers Facebook group, or email me directly at Jennifer@Playmaker-Coach. I'll be sure to answer your question or get that to Jamie and Joe, and I'm sure that they will reach out to you and answer that if I can't do that as well. So as a thank you for being here with us today, would like to donate to a cause of your choice. I think I know which one you might say, Joe, but I know you surprise me sometimes. So I'd love to hear about what organizations I can, Playmaker Coaching can contribute to today.
Go ahead, Jamie. I'll let you go first on this one.
Oh, me. Oh, we have someone in our network who runs Redeem and Restore for women who have gone through sex trafficking and whatnot. I would like to support them.
Sounds fantastic. Sounds like a great cause. And Joe?
I know you have a daughter who's in Girl Scouts, but my son is currently in Boy Scouts.
Your daughter's in Girl Scouts too, isn't she?
Yeah, so I wouldn't ask you to buy a Girl Scout.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in supporting a wreath or any sort of coffees from Jake's Boy Scout troop, that's the present one on the top of the mind.
Definitely. That sounds like a great plan for the holiday, and being a Girl Scout leader and everything myself,
Yeah.
I appreciate anything we can do to help support our kids and get them a little bit introduced to the world of entrepreneurship as well. I think it's a great experience for them. So the resources for this week, you'll get the recordings. Like I said, if you registered, that will be sent out tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll make sure that gets posted in the Facebook group as well. In addition, one of the things I often hear most often, and Joe kind of hit on today, is, hey, can you help me with this? Certainly that is something that's available to you. I help small business owners, financial advisors every day with helping to create the plan, and then partner with great people like Jamie in terms of how do we deliver that and make that easy for you. So you can get your season tickets, strategy sessions. I'll drop the link in the resources for you as well. What it is 4 quarterly strategy meetings that are an hour and a half each to work with your team on what worked in the last quarter and what do you want to do going forward. And what it does is really allow me to speak directly into your business and make sure it's customized and specific to what you want to do and your goals. And what it really means is that for you, as we talked about, you don't have to do it alone. You've got this team of people that can help you advance those desires that you have for your business, and all the support and answers to your questions that you might be looking for are there for you. So take that opportunity today to implement the try it out work tips that we heard. Get started, keep it simple, think about your segmentation. And I'll leave you with this. You deserve success and hearing thank yous for your thank yous. You deserve success with prospects that are starting to call you. You deserve success with a business that is easier and more fun. You deserve success. So thank you all once again. And we will be back probably in the spring. So if you have any additional ideas, things that you'd like to see, or you'd like to be a guest yourself on this segment, reach out to me and we'd love to feature you and share, or make sure that we bring in the resources that you're looking for. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks.